This is Today's Business Leaders. Actionable advice from real-world professionals. And now here's your host, Gabe Arnold.
All right, so today I'm super excited. I have Amy Smith on the show. We're going to talk about entrepreneurship and life and maybe tattoos, which is bonus for the show. But welcome to the show, Amy.
Thank you very much for having me. I'm really excited to be here.
Cool. So first and only scripted question of the show is, when did you first realize that you were an entrepreneur?
It was 2008 or 9. I started out doing photography and graphic design. But I love my mom, but she wanted me to have a real job, or go to college. I had to go to college, and she wanted me to get a real degree.
Mm-hmm.
So I got a real degree. But I was doing this the whole time, and I got a career and a real job, and I do like it, but this is what I love. And I'm really good at it. So yeah, I think I started probably around 2008, 2009, like this being my entrepreneur thing.
Very cool. So did you have a real job before then?
Well, before then I was doing that whole side, I'm doing this on the side while I'm going to school and everything.
Gotcha.
So yeah, but that was my first real job, was photography and graphic design. And then I got my real job, and then I'm still doing this. I'm back to doing this.
Cool. And you do this full time or on the side?
Full time.
Okay, cool. Yeah, people always ask me when's the right time to quit my job? And I'm like, when you have enough cash flow for your business, because quitting your job like I did 3 times is a dumb idea. It makes the whole startup process very difficult.
Yes. You kind of need money
to be successful in business. Yeah. You need to invest money.
Yes. Yeah, because it's a lot of people. Yeah, it's your own money for most of it. Unless you have a product and get investors, it's your own money.
Exactly. And my only saving grace, which I didn't know was difficult for a lot of people until much later, my only saving grace is I could sell ice and Eskimo all day long. So I could sell anything to anybody all the time. I could turn it on and sell. So I could sell my way out of dumb decisions, which I've done many, many times.
So you're a good person to have around.
To make the money, not to manage the money. I don't manage the money. But yeah, I didn't realize that was difficult for some people comparatively. It's actually one of the hardest things to learn in entrepreneurship. And fortunately, it was not a struggle for me. Everything else was a struggle. So you can't have it all. But for me, I was able to sell my way out of a hole all the time. Like Mark Cuban says, sales cures all. It does.
See, I'm too nice. My team says I give away too much for free. And I'm always like, oh, you need this? Here's how you can do it yourself. or yeah, I can figure. Yeah, I'm not good with sales. Or
that's why we hang out in that other cool group.
Yeah.
So anyway, you go to college. You try to appease your mother, and mothers are awesome. And then you realize that you actually just want to be an entrepreneur and do your thing. Yeah. Catch us up from that point to where you are today, and just kind of give us the brief history of the last 10 years, right?
So yeah, sure. So, like I said, I went to university to become a nurse, and I love that, but, cause I do like science and all that stuff, but it wasn't really filling me up. So yeah, because I'm very creative. People were still always asking can you do a website or grab pictures? I just don't do photography anymore, because I'm I can't be a nurse who works on the weekends and a photographer who works on the weekends. I have to have weekends. So, but yeah, so I did that for a while. I was doing both. And, I just pretty much was okay, I just kept taking away hours from the hospital, which is, I'm very fortunate to have that career, to be able to just keep working less and less. Whereas I know everybody with a 9-to-5, my husband's in it. He's in a 9-to-5 and trying to be an entrepreneur, and
it's hard.
He keeps adding things to my plate. And I'm I don't have, he said today, can we have like some productive time? Like, can I schedule that? And I'm like, okay, May 15th. I have time May 15th. So
Wait in line with everybody else.
I know he's arguably my worst client because I can't turn him off at 10 p.m. like everybody else. So yeah, I am blessed to have chosen a real career with that flexibility.
Yeah.
So yeah, I was kind of doing the part-time thing, like doing both part-time, and then only now am I going full-time with this, because I think for a while I was like, I am a good nurse. Like, why should I
Give that up. Yeah.
yeah. And then I think maybe that disappointment of my mom, or, like, oh, I got this degree, like I should use it. And then, but it was only until maybe January of this year that I really did make that shift. Like, I think the biggest thing holding me back was I got a degree in nursing. I didn't get a degree in websites. I have education and certificates and all that stuff, but that wasn't my degree. So why would people pay me?
Mm-hmm.
So switching that, and that was one of the reasons I was undercharging. So switching that, I think, just changed everything. So I wish like I had done that sooner, but oh well. So that was like, what, 10 years after starting?
That's all right.
Yeah.
It's better than never.
That's true.
I've been an entrepreneur for 20 years this year. And
Yeah.
I really feel like the only last 3 or 4 years I actually have half a clue.
Yeah.
So you did it in half the time. So don't feel bad.
I mean, I still only have half a clue though. So maybe in 10 more years, I will have a full clue.
And we'll totally know what we're doing. We'll be real experts.
Real experts.
Really, really experts.
Don't turn your husband off at 10 p.m. Well, when he wants me to do his website, and I've been doing websites all day.
Yeah.
By the way, he doesn't listen to me for websites, James. He does not listen to me. I can do a significantly better website than what he allows me to do, but he is my worst client. I shouldn't say that. I love you. He's not on Facebook. He just, I don't know. Maybe if he paid me. He doesn't pay me. I do it for free.
Having that type of relationship is hard. People don't realize, because I feel like I'm an idiot all the time to Rachel, and she's phenomenal and like takes good care of me. But it's very hard to be with somebody and in business with somebody.
Yes. People who do it are amazing. Like Landon and Ash and Ron and Kate McKnight. I'm just like, how do you do it? Like, I don't mind staying home, like us, like staying home, work from home, but like working together, like, no, we don't do it. It might be the fact that I am an ENFP and he is an INFJ. He's whatever Josh Richards is. I know that. He's the Mother Teresa one.
Gotcha.
And I am the one that has a lot of celebrities on it. So I don't know if you do Myers-Briggs.
I've taken that one, and then I've taken the DISC assessment, and I've taken all of them, and it totally depends on what day and what mood I'm in.
Oh.
So it's very hard for me to track on where I actually am.
Oh, you're one of those. See, I am
one of those.
Years, I have never not been an ENFP.
Yeah, no, it totally depends on what mode I'm in, because this quarter I might be being crazy and doing, hyper focused on things. Next quarter I could be in a totally like chilled out mode and just observing. It's so weird.
You might be something close to me then, because I go back and forth between being like the social butterfly and then like the introverted observant type. So you might be one of those tricky ones.
I am definitely one of the tricky ones, but it definitely makes working with your partner or spouse or girlfriend or boyfriend or whatever, it makes it a challenge for sure. It's not the easiest thing in the world, because it's taken me a few years to be decent at communicating.
Yeah. That's another big thing. Like being a part-time entrepreneur, obviously it's taking you longer to learn things. Mm-hmm. And one of the biggest things to learn is communication and standing up for yourself as well as standing up for your client. Cause especially with, you probably experienced this. A lot of people think they know what they need but they don't.
Yeah.
So being able to stand up for their best interest while also telling them they're wrong is really hard to do.
I totally agree.
All that stuff. So yeah.
The one thing I've learned is that telling stories is probably the most effective way to move people.
Okay.
So to
I
share,
agree.
so next time you have a client that's like total pain in the ass because they're not listening to something you're really trying to help them with and solve the problem the right way for them, tell them a story about a different client and how it worked out when they didn't listen, and how it worked out when they did listen, and say like, hey, do you mind if we just take a minute? I want to share something that happened to me that may be really useful to you, and ask permission to tell the story, and then tell the story.
That's true. Storytelling goes a long way. I like that idea. It's like a case study.
Yeah, exactly. It's the original like design. It's the original Facebook. It's the original communication before we had written word.
Yeah.
So it's like the baseline. If you master that, in some senses, I feel like then you're good. But anyway.
Great advice, everybody. Gabe, advice man. Chameleon, as Deborah points out.
I totally agree with that, Deborah. That's my problem. Or my gift or whatever. So I have a really interesting question for you.
Okay.
There's a lot of services out there now, and I've even dabbled in this space and I couldn't figure it out. So it's not something I'm actively dabbling in right now, but there's a lot of services out there that want to launch like unlimited graphic design, like graphic design subscriptions. There's obviously website builders. There's all these things. Like, you're in a space that's super commoditized. So what's the difference of using something like that and working with somebody like you, and also maybe what are your thoughts of how you're going to stand out against that competition? Because my opinion is it's not really competition, but people think it is.
That's a great question. I have to figure out how to navigate this. So I have a lot of thoughts on that. First of all, a lot of it depends on, I'm going to come from this first as the client. So not as me as the designer, as the client. If you are someone that needs a commodity, that like a design, or it's just the same as you need anything, you are getting what you pay for. So
Right.
If there is a service that offers it, if it's $1,000 a month, you're probably getting a lot. If it's $100 a month, well, what are you getting for that? So I have charged as little as $100 a month, but what they're getting for that is really very, very minimal website maintenance, or like occasional updates of things. So just know what you're getting for that. But it also goes beyond the design. So for instance, like Upwork, Fiverr, and all these things, they're like changing the industry and all that stuff. And I'm like, there's not too much wrong with them from a client standpoint. You just need to make sure you are getting what you deserve, to be getting. And a quality designer will give you what you deserve to be getting.
Yeah.
And that includes all the files. You don't just get one or two iterations, you get all the files. They should be transferring at least most of the ownership. For instance, in my contracts, I always tell people, you now own that. And this is just mine. There's various things. For me, I say, you now own it, but I would like to retain the rights just to use it as a portfolio item. There's a whole like spectrum of ways you can do that. So a lot of those sites don't always do that. I haven't actually read too much on the policies or terms for Upwork and Fiverr to know like if they do that, but because when you are on Upwork or Fiverr, there's not a contract or an agreement. It's Upwork or Fiverr, and they're the dispute. They're the middleman. So you're not getting a contract with the client or the service provider. So the contracts are so important for both parties. So that is very important. My husband, I hate logo design. so he needed a new logo, and I was trying very hard, and I'm like, we just disagreed and all this stuff. And I was like, so he finally was like, oh, there's this deal on, I don't remember if it was Upwork or Fiverr. And I'm like, okay, if you really want, because he couldn't afford what a quality one was. And, he went there, and, you get what, 2 or 3 iterations. I think it was $50 or $100. You get 2 or 3 iterations. They did offer all, and stop me if I'm talking too much, but it's a great topic.
Yeah.
You do get all, you get a lot of them. And I think I approved it. I was like, let me see what the package is. Like, you want to get everything. And even if it's just temporary, like, you don't want to get like the small image that
doesn't work or anything.
Doesn't work. You want to get like the background. Like, I mean, I can remove it anyways. So, but like he didn't end up going with it at all, because the guy was like, okay, I'm gonna give you some ideas. I'm gonna give you some like 3 or 4 samples, and then I can make changes to those, but that's it.
Mm-hmm.
And so he didn't like any of them. And so that's just an example on the client end. So you just kind of got to know what you're getting for what you're paying for.
Mm-hmm.
The other consideration starts to move into the service provider is Upwork. I don't know about Fiverr, but Upwork takes 20% of, I'm on Upwork. I don't really do much from it. I've been able to be successful. I take like fun projects just for the heck of it, or I have gotten clients, long-term clients from Upwork. So there is a way to do it, but they take 20%. So I am putting like my actual pricing, but then I have to up it on Upwork just to make what I should be making. And then it's like all this other stuff. So 20% is huge. And you can, after a certain amount of hours, they cut down to 10% only with that one client. And like I said, there's protection. Upwork protects you guys, but then again, you're not getting legal protection. So I think that answered your question.
Yeah, it does. No, it's perfect. You brought up a lot of good points.
Yeah.
Because if you don't explicitly get licensed for something, then it's not necessarily yours in ownership. Will somebody ever come back after you? Probably not, but you do run that risk, and they can pull it out anyways. I say, hey, this is my original work. So that's definitely important. When you invest a lot of money in design, make sure that you have that in the agreement and you understand the agreement. And especially the more you spend, like, ask your attorney, like, say, is this okay? Like, do I actually own this, or whatever it is? And it's nice that you're totally upfront about that, and so that people know what the deal is. So that's a huge piece. And then I totally agree with you. You're always going to get what you pay for. So you don't ever think going to Fiverr is going to be the same as hiring a real designer. Not that there's not real designers on Fiverr.
Yeah.
But
like I said, what they do is they have to compensate. And so, like I said, I've had some great clients from Upwork. So it is possible. But we usually have to end up getting off Upwork just because, the communication, and I need the contract when they're bigger. Like if it's a small project just for fun, I don't mind.
Right.
But the other point I wanted to bring up was, if you can't invest in that, like, I don't think there's anything wrong with getting started. And not to mention, there's a lot of great designers that are just starting out that will charge the less prices too. So I think those are also good options, but they might have your best interest in mind, because they are a great designer. They're just starting out. So they'll do the right contract. They'll do the right things, if that makes sense.
Yeah. It's definitely a tough industry to navigate on both sides, because if you're a super creative, you're probably not awesome at details and admin and business. I mean, it's maybe not your next, natural thing. There's exceptions to the rule, but, and then on the client side, like, until you get repeated exposure to good design and the theory of design, and then also start to see what bad design is, until you get enough exposure, you have no idea what you're buying. So, and so, like you said, if it's like a placeholder thing, or you need something temporary or quick and easy, then that's fine. But just be aware and be realistic that you're getting what you pay for. And so it will probably suffice for a time, but it may not, stand the test of time. And really good design, I think, lasts a long, long time and is, principle based and not just, oh, I like this. Like it's not that flippant.
Absolutely agree.
Yeah. So I guess what could you share to, people watching about design? Like what would you share that would be like, here's some basics of things you need to know, like what's design 101 from a buyer's perspective, so that when you're making the choice between Fiverr or paying good money, like I guess just guide us a little bit more, because I understand design at some level, but I don't think I can articulate it like a designer, and I'm not a designer.
Gabe, I can't share this with you because James Gaffney is watching and he's going to disagree.
I don't care what James says. Just ignore him.
Okay, so before I get into that, I was talking earlier with a few other designers, and we were talking about the design. I was like, there are some people that have really shitty websites, but they convert really well because there are some people, there are some target audiences that do not care, or they just do everything else right, or all these other things. So my number one tip is having a website is better than not having a website. So now, not everybody needs to have a website. People can get away with Facebook page only, depending on your niche or your business. But if it's a matter between not having a website and having a website, have a website. It's so important to just have a home base. Mm-hmm. After that, I think the most common issues I see is people choosing clashing colors. They don't have, I see a lot of pages that are so outdated with, like, it just looks like it's straight out of like the early 2000s. And people don't want that nowadays. I saw a website earlier where it was like this really narrow, like top header, just a picture that was not the great quality. That's another thing. I am all about a good quality image. And then it was like this narrow, like wall of text with like, it just like, they just didn't use space right.
Yeah.
Like it was, and I think that was their only picture. So, those are the things. So it's really hard for me to really pinpoint because my aesthetic design is different than another designer. But I think when you're talking about attracting customers, you need to figure out, first of all, who your customers are. Do they care? Like I said, people can get away with crappy websites. Mm-hmm. If you want a really great example of a crappy website, ClickFunnels. I hate ClickFunnels. I don't mind the designs people do on it, but the homepage for ClickFunnels is horrible in my opinion. Hate it. But it does so well. So it's so busy.
Yeah.
So I think people, unless you're creating a sales page, people aren't reading, and that's what it is. It's a sales page. People aren't reading walls and walls and walls of text. Mm-hmm. So having a readable website is probably the best thing for design. And people don't think that readability is a design aspect, but it is. You want to break up text. You don't want walls of text. You want it to be reader friendly. You want it to like have like a mixture of like bullet points, not long. Yep. James agrees with me. ClickFunnels site is trash. It's horrible. So yeah, you want to break things up, break up paragraphs, just guide people better. And that is both a science and an art in doing that. But knowing that if you want to look at a bad website, look at ClickFunnels and then not do that. And you're great. As of 2018 May, they are a good example.
And I think what you touched on is important. Is it's not just the images and the words. It's really thinking through the strategy of what you want the person to do. like what's supposed to happen.
Yeah.
And that's, in my opinion, why ugly sites convert, is because they still have managed to tell people to go down the right path. And from a design perspective, or a designer's perspective more specifically, it may be an ugly site, or it may be something like, oh, this is horrible. But it achieves the goal, because I've had some really, really ugly landing pages that convert like crazy, so I leave them.
Exactly. I have seen crappy web pages do so great. I've even had them. I've created a landing page that I just put so little effort into just because I was doing quick, and then it did well because I knew how to do all that. But
Right.
my point with when I was talking about this earlier is just imagine how much better it could do if you just elevated it a little bit.
Yeah. And I think that's a good point, because I think anytime I've made a reasonable or serious investment in design, then I see a lift overall.
Mm-hmm.
So to me, design, I've realized only very recently that it's something that I need to invest in every year. Like, do updates to the homepage, or like I did a whole brand refresh a year ago, and that alone, huge impact. And so I don't always think, unfortunately, I don't think that design is something you can put your money into the design machine and get money back out like instantaneously. I feel it's like it's more of an investment where it starts to pay you over time. And so it's not, unfortunately, it's not easy to, it's hard. It feels harder to invest in because you don't get instant return, and we all want instant results, right?
Yeah, it does. I agree with that. It also feels like that with probably a lot of others, like coaches, and I think sometimes entrepreneurial lawyers. I think sometimes it's hard for people to invest in a lawyer that does like online stuff, IP.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I recently did that too. I was like, gosh, I'm giving a lot of money away. But imagine like if she didn't fix the contracts that are on my website, imagine
Right.
how much more money I'm going to spend with legal issues.
Legal after the fact is very expensive. Legal ahead of time, way better choice.
I think if you're honestly, I think I would say invest in a good lawyer first. If you have a shitty trouble with mindset, you need a lot of direction, then a coach, and then probably a website. I think, like I said, a website is better than no website.
Yeah.
So, but all three, or maybe not a lawyer will give you a return on your investment, but you will be glad you did it. But the other two will give you a good return on investment.
A lawyer absolutely will. Huge return on investment, because you are going to get sued if you're in business.
That's true. Especially online, guys. I mean, I do this with my clients. I'm now trying to do some education. Like, it is so, like, this upcoming GDPR thing. And if you don't know what that is, the European Union is just instituting the general data protection regulations to help with protecting users in the EU for data privacy, which I mean, almost all of what they're doing, I've been doing for years anyways, because it's common sense. But I'll go to people's, and that's one of the things I give away for free. I'm like, people will be like, hey, can you check out my website? I'm like, yeah, you need this. Like, this is where you can go and get it. Like, you need to protect yourself.
Yeah.
And like I said, a good lawyer or a good designer will tell you that. I don't know if a lot of designers, I don't know. I don't know. I don't pay attention to other designers enough website designers enough to know if they educate on having those contracts in place.
Yeah. And for anything that you're going to buy, we're talking about investing in design and like entrepreneurship and everything here. For anything that you're going to invest in, you can invest in somebody that knows the skill, or you can invest in somebody that knows about the big picture, the strategy, what's behind it, the reasons, the psychology, the legal end, the whole thing. And the difference in depth of what you get is huge, because you'll come in and hire Amy to build, design you a new website and do all that stuff, that's the thing that you need. And that's great. But when you partner with the right people, there's all this extra value that's thrown off on top, where it's like, hey, by the way, make sure, this is my recommendation of an attorney to talk to, or, don't do this, or the theory and psychology behind what we're doing is this. So you can become a better salesperson, a better business owner, more educated, and you get so much more value out of working with somebody that really is invested and cares. And that's why you should pay more. You should always pay more. and if you can't, I totally get it. I've been at the bootstrap level. I've been with the, sleeping on a friend's couch with $100 to my name. Like, I totally get it. That's not the time to do that. But the moment that you get any stability, if you invest ahead of time, you'll be so much more successful, and you'll save so much time and money and headache.
I completely agree. I was just thinking that's exactly the difference between like Upwork and Fiverr and like hiring I don't want to say a real expert, but
A real designer.
But yeah.
Yeah, because you can't afford to care on a marketplace. Like, you just can't. Those marketplaces are so cutthroat, and I left Upwork because they don't treat people right. So
yeah,
I don't know. I can't be a part of that. That's like too big of a cut. They're
talking about like even just small things, like even if it's a $10 job, I mean that's $2.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. and that's the other thing is like it's taken me years to figure this stuff out, but more and more I'm understanding like I don't want to be involved with things where I feel like people are getting hurt, and that's the other reason why when you're considering like what provider do I bring in, or who should I work with, or who should I partner with, if you underpay, you are starting the relationship off where the other person can't care about you and can't deliver value. And so you're definitely going to do it once and redo it again and do it over and over time. That's just how it goes. Whereas if you sit back and are patient and you deal with your rough version, or you deal with your crappy one that you started out with, and you sit a little bit longer and you invest another, 50 or 100% more than you thought you were, then you're really getting an asset that'll actually serve you well, and somebody that really cares about you.
I agree. And I do think there are instances where you can hire help that will really work for you and grow with you. And that's one of the advantages is if you can't afford all the people, you can find someone who is starting out or newer and lower pricing, and then you're kind of grandfathered into their old pricing. But if you treat them right, then they'll stick around with you, and then theoretically you would be a good boss and you would start paying them more and more as you can.
Yeah.
So that's always another option for if you're trying to save money. There are a lot of people that are starting out, but like you said, you get what you pay for. And sometimes it's nice because then you can, if they don't know all the programs, you can tell them what programs for, like they'll just train on what you want them to train on or something. I don't know.
Yeah. No, that makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
What do you think would be like something useful that people, business owners, entrepreneurs, people watching that are not designers, like how could they communicate better with a designer? Like what are some of the things that would be helpful as like kind of pre-education or a starting point, or like before somebody comes to work with you, what do you wish people already knew that's basic stuff that accelerates the relationship positively? But obviously they don't need to study to become a designer.
Yeah.
Like what kind of things, if you could set up the perfect like pre-education or things that you have to do before you hire me, what would those be?
Honestly, I think they'd all be mindset. I think most of my clients come in with this idea of this is what their website's going to look like, or this. And to an extent, I do my absolute best to be as close to that as possible. But like you said, they're hiring me for what I can do, what I know beyond how I create a logo. Like I said, I don't do logos, but whatever. So like I said, I stand up for them. I'm like, you know what, this would convert better, or here's how we can do a better, like, here's how we can compromise. So I think, and then for a long time, I just don't even do it anymore. But for a long time, people were like, can you pretty much make me this person's website? And I'm like, I would do it because I wanted money. I mean, I would be like, well, we can't do it exactly because of legal issues, and, we would have to manipulate, but I would still give them the basis overall. And I think one time I was like, well, do you just trust me? And that client did. And I did something way beyond what they expected, because I think for a while I was just doing what they were telling me, and I was producing I mean, okay work.
Average work, yeah.
Yeah, they were happy, but they didn't even know what it could be. So
Yeah.
I think that would be my thing, is go in, no, trusting who you're hiring. Like I said, a good person will keep your best interest in mind. They will do everything they can to make sure you are fully involved in the process. But at the end of the day, there's going to be a reason they're not doing something. Um, and then you can still say no if you're really sold on it, but at least listen to them. I think that's honestly my biggest hurdle, is you're hiring me or someone because you don't have the skills. Maybe you have the knowledge, but if you don't have the knowledge, it's fine. But you're hiring a professional for more than their skills, and it's for that strategy and that rationale. Because I have built pretty websites that didn't really do anything because they didn't have that strategy behind it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, you're totally right. And the problem with like forcing your agenda in a relationship with anybody that you hire, but especially creative people, I would think, because I have a little bit of creativity in me, is that you can very quickly demotivate them because you brought them in to do their best work and do their thing, and they love being creative. And then if you just jam down their throat, like this is the way it's got to be, they're going to start to have some, bitterness towards you at best. And then it's not going to be any fun. And just like you said, they won't even know what they missed out on, because like, you weren't able to bring your A game because they already said, we're going to do it this way in this, copy and pasted remanufactured deal of something I saw. And then you're just totally shorting yourself for what you were trying to pay for. Right.
Yeah, exactly.
So that's definitely good advice.
I mean, sometimes it's an easy job, but I don't know, it's like not an ethic thing, but it's like do you want the easy job, or I don't know, you're doing a disservice to everybody, I think, if you're, which like I said, it took me a while to learn how to speak up for myself and for them.
Mm-hmm.
So.
And I think like another point too that you made, it was really good, is like, you need to trust people if you want to be successful in life and business. Unfortunately, there's no way around that. And are you going to get burned? Absolutely. But if you live in a trustworthy way and you just trust others, you're going to get the best out of those people. So don't be ignorant, like, trust but verify, like make sure they're actually working and doing stuff for you, but also give people the freedom to live in their zone of genius, and you'll have such a better experience.
Exactly. I mean, that's exactly what happens when you outsource anything. I think it is hard too, and I don't know how everybody else is, but I'm creative, but like I do outsource some things that I can do myself. So I think that that can be hard too, but I have come to be like, okay, after we get through like a little bit, it's like, okay, you have a good idea. I'll just let you do your thing. Like people on my team, they're like, do you want to approve this? I'm like, no. Yeah. Like, I'm okay. So I think that's another element too, is it is hard to trust people if you do or you don't know what you're doing. You're relinquishing some control. But I don't know if it was you or someone lately was saying, I mean, imagine what you get back when you relinquish control.
Oh yeah, it's huge. Yeah, actually, yeah, I did mention, not directly about that, but I did mention something about surrendering and letting go.
Yeah.
Or somebody I did. I can't remember.
You did. I saw it, and I just manipulated it to apply here.
Cool. So that's kind of on the client side, things to keep in mind. Why don't you share, just kind of last piece here for today, probably share a little bit about why you weren't charging enough and how that affected you, and then when you figured out that you have to charge enough to actually be able to serve people correctly, is what I guess is probably what's going to come out of this. But tell me about that experience.
So if you were listening, tuned in the beginning, then you heard that like I was kind of doing this part-time. I don't have the degree. So that was a huge mindset rut for me, is like, oh, I can't charge this because I didn't go and get my master's of fine art and website design and all this fancy stuff, or I haven't been doing this long enough, but some wise people were like, but you've been doing this, like you have how many clients under your belt, like how many years, like it's not like you just started. So that was a thing. And then also part-time, I think I was like, well, I do have income coming in. So I'm okay. Like this is just extra money. So I think those two played a lot. But then the more I took less hours at the hospital and the more I took myself seriously, the more I was like, and that included maybe time tracking or really delving down to what it all is entailed. And so I could be a better estimate what exactly a project or a job will be. And then I was like, this is going to take 10 hours. How much do I charge per hour? What is that hour worth? And then that's just how I started pricing things. I was like, I can't be doing things for $10 an hour. First of all, that's like, I can't leave a job that's paying me more than that to do this. So I think there's a lot of that I had to figure out and come to terms with. And I did. But I do think a lot of people struggle with that and I see that a lot with people that I coach is that they have all these reasons why they're not worth it. So it's like, you gotta reverse engineer that and fix that.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. I think, the way you came to it makes a lot of sense. You kind of figure it out over time and just kind of break it down and are really logical about it. And so that's definitely a good path to go from not charging enough to charging enough. I think sometimes it's hard to value yourself, especially creatives, because sometimes we don't fit into the normal world very well. And so because of that, we have issues and like other things going on. So for me, just because I think it's really cool that you figured that out and transitioned and now you can be in a place of success. For me, sometimes it's been internal, like figuring out my value and like doing the math. And like a book I always tell people to read is Profit First, because it'll fix your pricing problems. But the other part of it is sometimes you have to get outside of yourself, because sometimes treating yourself well is not a big enough motivation. And then so I turn it around for people and say, if you really want to treat people well, then charge them a lot, because then you can totally focus in and take good care of them.
That's true. Yeah. Someone once, you've probably heard this before. It's like, if you need to make X amount of dollars per month, $5,000 a month, do you want that to be 10 clients and juggling that? Or do you want that to be 2 clients or 1 client? Like, imagine how much more you can provide. Yep. If you just had a few clients making that minimum that you need. And then I think the last point is that, oh crap, I lost it. It was another one. But yeah, that whole thing is figure out maybe that minimum. Yeah. And then, like you said, just offer value. Like, you can't offer enough value, to be honest. You can cap it off if it's not, but you can't offer too much. Yeah. It's worth it.
Yeah. And that's what I tell people too, is a great point. Like, I tell people, consciously choose what model you want to build for your business. Lots of customers paying you a little bit, or a few customers paying you a lot. But either way, make sure that it's very profitable and that you can take good care of people and do your thing the right way, because then it's easier to go out and give and, be generous and charitable and do the things you want and have time with your family and all that good stuff. When you're doing it wrong, it just compounds the pressure of being an entrepreneur, which is enough pressure by itself.
Yeah. So. Yeah. Not to mention you're happier. Like, people want happy employees or hired people.
And partners, For sure. Well, awesome, Amy. This has been a lot of fun and great advice.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. Everybody can go to skill-space.com to see what Amy's up to. Anywhere else they should follow you around?
I don't currently have that. Then I have a summit coming up on there, but my workshop is on there, so you can look at that. I offer a few trainings on building a business online, and but yeah, that's probably a good place. Or you can go to amysmith.io. That has a really good breakdown of kind of all that I do.
Cool. Grand Central for you.
I'll post that. But yeah, I'm kind of in a few locations.
Very cool. Well, thank you so much for being on today, and we'll definitely have you back on again soon and teach us some more about design and business and life and all that good stuff.
Yeah, we need to talk about tattoo design. We didn't do that.
Doggone it. That's the next episode.
Okay, well, thank you, everyone, and thank you, Gabe, for having me. Just let me know if you guys have any questions.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
You've been listening to Today's Business Leaders with Gabe Arnold. Remember to subscribe on iTunes. For more information, visit todaysbusinessleaders.com.